I've been married to this place for 7 years. That's the only way I know how to describe it. Same routine every morning, same promises about we're a team, same talk about loyalty and long-term plans. For most of that time, things were stable, boring sometimes, sure, but predictable. I trusted the person in charge completely. She ran things with a sharp tongue and a tighter grip, but I told myself that was just her way of keeping everything together. The first cracks didn't look dramatic. A new rule dropped out of nowhere one Monday morning, no warning, no discussion, just a cold announcement that changed how all of us worked overnight. She framed it like it was for our own good, like it would strengthen the relationship and weed out disloyalty. Anyone who questioned it got shut down fast. I remember feeling uneasy, like something fundamental had shifted, but I brushed it off. You don't throw away years of trust over one bad decision, right? Looking back, that was the moment everything quietly started going wrong. That rule didn't just change procedures, it changed her. Suddenly she was staying late, handling important things she couldn't explain. Her tone got sharper, more dismissive. If someone pushed back, even politely, she'd snap and accuse them of not being committed enough. The weirdest part was how often she contradicted herself. One day the rule was temporary, the next it was permanent. One meeting she claimed upper management demanded it, later she said it was entirely her idea. People started getting punished randomly. Long-time, reliable folks were written up for tiny things, while others, newer faces, loud supporters, got special treatment. I remember defending her at first, telling myself leadership is messy and I just didn't see the full picture. Still, that knot in my stomach kept tightening. Trust doesn't vanish instantly. It erodes, one lie and one rush decision at a time. I didn't know it yet, but that rule wasn't about improving anything. It was about control, and she was already hiding something behind it. Everything escalated fast after that. Another rule followed the first, then another, each more restrictive and poorly thought out than the last. Breaks got shortened. Metrics changed midweek. Expectations shifted without notice, and somehow it was always our fault for not keeping up. She'd smile while delivering bad news, like we should be grateful for the punishment. What really set off alarms was how defensive she became. Ask a simple question and she'd act personally attacked. "Do you not trust me?" she'd say, flipping the script instantly. Meetings turned into lectures. Feedback became negativity. It felt less like leadership and more like gaslighting, deny the chaos, blame the people affected by it. Morale tanked almost overnight. Good people started whispering about leaving. I caught myself doing the same, even though I hated the idea. Walking away felt like betrayal, but staying felt like slowly suffocating under rules that made no sense. The balance we had before was gone, replaced by constant tension and fear of the next impulsive decision. The real discovery didn't come from some grand announcement. It was an accident. I stayed late one evening to finish a report she suddenly demanded by morning, another last-minute change. Her office door was half open, lights still on. I heard her laughing. Not the forced, professional laugh she used with us, but something relaxed, almost intimate. I shouldn't have looked, but I did. She was on a call, leaning back, feet on the desk, talking freely about how the new rules were brilliant because they pushed people out without her having to fire them. She joked about how upper management would never notice as long as numbers looked aggressive enough. Then she said something that hit like a punch: they'll blame themselves. They always do. In that moment, everything clicked. The lies. The sudden rules. The cruelty dressed up as leadership. This wasn't incompetence, it was calculation. She wasn't committed to the team at all. She was using us as leverage for her own climb, and she didn't care who got crushed along the way. That's when the shock set in, heavy and nauseating, because the person I trusted was never who she claimed to be. I didn't plan to confront her that night, but my mouth moved before my brain could stop it. I stepped into the doorway, and the color drained from her face for half a second, just long enough to tell me everything. Then the mask snapped back on. She ended the call quickly and asked what I needed, like I was interrupting something harmless. I told her what I heard. Calmly, at first. Her response was immediate denial. She said I misunderstood, that I was emotionally charged and projecting stress. When that didn't work, she pivoted. Suddenly it was a joke. Then it was taken out of context. Then it was my fault for eavesdropping. Each explanation contradicted the last, but she delivered them with confidence, like repetition could rewrite reality. When I pushed back, she got nasty. Accused me of undermining her authority. Threatened consequences if I spread rumors. She even tried to flip it into concern, asking if I was okay mentally. That's when the anger hit hot, shaking anger, because I realized she wasn't just lying. She was comfortable lying. And she expected me to swallow it and move on like nothing happened. The next morning, the consequences came fast. I was pulled into a meeting, no agenda, no warning. HR sat in, stone-faced. She spoke first, already in control of the narrative. Apparently, I'd been hostile, disruptive, and resistant to change. She painted me as emotional, unreliable, someone struggling to adapt to her vision. I barely recognized the story she told, but I saw how smoothly it landed. Every rash rule suddenly had a justification. Every complaint became proof of disloyalty. When I tried to explain my side, she interrupted, corrected, reframed. It was like watching someone erase me in real time. By lunch, my responsibilities were stripped temporarily. By the end of the day, I was reassigned to busy work meant to humiliate more than help. Word spread quickly. People avoided eye contact. A few sent quiet messages of support, but no one wanted to be next. That's when the shock gave way to something heavier, grief. Not just for my position, but for the belief that fairness mattered here at all. That week wrecked me more than I expected. I couldn't sleep. Every conversation replayed in my head, every lie stacked neatly on top of the last. I bounced between rage and self-doubt. Part of me wanted to storm back in and expose everything. Another part wondered if she was right, if I really was overreacting, if years of loyalty had somehow made me blind. The worst part was the isolation. People I'd worked alongside for years suddenly treated me like a liability. Not out of malice, but fear. I understood it, which somehow made it hurt more. I felt disposable, like all that history meant nothing once a single person decided I was inconvenient. Then came the email. A new rule, rolled out company-wide, harsher than anything before. Mandatory unpaid time. Zero flexibility. It was rushed, sloppy, and clearly illegal in a few places. As I read it, something inside me shifted. The sadness didn't vanish, but it hardened into clarity. This wasn't just personal anymore. She wasn't just betraying trust, she was setting herself up for a fall, dragging everyone else with her. That email triggered chaos. People started asking questions, real ones this time. Not whispers, but written concerns, CC'd to the wrong people. She tried to contain it with another meeting, then another rushed rule meant to clarify the first. Each explanation contradicted the last. Screenshots started circulating. Timelines didn't line up. What surprised me was how often my name came up in private messages. Not to blame me, but to ask what I knew. Apparently, I wasn't the only one who'd noticed her late-night calls, her selective enforcement, the way her favorites never seemed affected by the rules. Once doubt takes root, it spreads fast. Upper management finally stepped in, not because of ethics, but because productivity nosedived and legal flags went up. She doubled down instead of backing off. Sent a long, defensive message about loyalty and trust, painting herself as the victim of a coordinated misunderstanding. Reading it, I felt an odd calm. Liars get sloppy when they panic. And she was panicking. The investigation moved quicker than anyone expected. Audits, interviews, document requests, suddenly the place felt tense in a different way. She tried to act unbothered, still throwing out rules, still posturing, but the confidence was cracked now. You could hear it in her voice when she spoke, sharp but rushed. I was interviewed late one afternoon. No theatrics, no accusations, just facts. I handed over emails, notes, dates. I didn't embellish. I didn't need to. Her own contradictions did the work for me. The rules she'd created without approval, the numbers she'd massaged, the people she'd quietly pushed out, it all lined up too neatly to ignore. The suddenness of it all was surreal. One day I was sidelined and doubting myself. The next, I was watching leadership stop taking her calls. Her office door stayed closed. Meetings got cancelled. And for the first time since this started, I felt something close to relief, not victory, not joy, just the sense that reality was finally catching up to her. It ended faster than I imagined. No dramatic announcement, no apology tour. She simply stopped showing up. An all-hands meeting was called, short and awkward. We were told there'd been a leadership change effective immediately. No questions. No details. Just like that, the person who'd ruled by impulse and fear vanished. What came out afterward was worse than rumors. Expense misuse. Unauthorized policy changes. Pressure tactics documented in writing. Her vision turned out to be a trail of rushed decisions made to impress someone higher up who barely remembered her name. The rules that wrecked morale? Never approved. Never needed. I expected to feel vindicated, but mostly I felt tired. 7 years of trust undone by one person's ego and a handful of reckless choices. Watching her collapse under the weight of her own decisions was quiet, almost anticlimactic. Karma didn't scream, it whispered, then closed the door. The cleanup was messy. Rules were rolled back, policies rewritten, apologies sent out in stiff corporate language. People returned, slowly, like animals after a storm. Some never did. The damage she caused couldn't be fully undone, no matter how many meetings were scheduled to rebuild trust. I was called into another meeting, this time with different faces, different tone. They reinstated my role, acknowledged things could have been handled better. No direct apology, but enough to read between the lines. I nodded, thanked them, and felt oddly detached. Getting back what I lost didn't erase how easily it had been taken. What stuck with me most was how fragile stability really is. One impulsive leader, one rash rule, and years of balance can collapse overnight. Loyalty, I learned, is often demanded by people who have none to give. And once that illusion breaks, it never fully comes back. The anger faded slowly. Not because what happened was okay, but because carrying it around started to feel heavier than letting it go. I stopped replaying conversations in my head. Stopped wondering what I could have said differently. The truth was, no amount of careful wording would have changed someone who'd already decided to burn trust for ambition. I accepted something uncomfortable, I ignored early signs because it was easier than confronting them. I wanted stability more than clarity. That realization stung, but it was honest. The betrayal wasn't just in the rules she made, it was in how willingly she treated people as expendable, and how long we all tried to rationalize it. Acceptance didn't mean forgetting. It meant understanding that her downfall wasn't caused by me speaking up, it was caused by her own rash decisions stacking up until they finally collapsed under their own weight. I didn't stay as long as I thought I would. Once the dust settled, the place felt different, not safer, just more transparent in its flaws. I started looking elsewhere, quietly at first, then seriously. Interviews reminded me of something I'd forgotten: not every environment runs on fear and impulsive rules. When I finally gave notice, the reaction was polite, even supportive. No guilt trips. No drama. That alone told me I was making the right call. Walking out on my last day, I felt lighter than I had in years. Not because I'd won, but because I wasn't tied to a system that could turn on people so easily. Her shadow lingered, but it no longer defined my choices. I took the lesson with me: trust leadership, yes, but never blindly, and never at the cost of your own judgment. I used to think bad leaders failed because they were incompetent. Now I know that's not always true. Some fail because they're impatient, arrogant, or convinced that authority makes them untouchable. One rash rule can expose all of that at once. I learned to pay attention to how decisions are made, not just what they're called. Urgency without explanation is a red flag. Loyalty demanded instead of earned is another. And when someone lies easily about small things, they'll lie brutally when the stakes are high. Most of all, I learned that karma doesn't need revenge. People who build power on fear and deception eventually trap themselves inside it. All you have to do is step aside and let their choices finish the job. If I could give advice to anyone stuck under a boss who rules by impulse and intimidation, it'd be this: document everything, trust your instincts, and don't let someone else's authority convince you that reality is negotiable. Rash decisions leave fingerprints. Lies create patterns. Sooner or later, they're seen. I went into this believing loyalty would protect me. I came out understanding that self-respect matters more. She didn't fall because people turned on her, she fell because she built her power on reckless rules and expected everyone else to carry the consequences. In the end, I didn't need revenge or validation. Watching her pay dearly for her own decisions was enough.